welcome everyone to Sideline Report. I'm Marvin Jackson. We have some noops in the house tonight. And of course, Lou Holder is always with us. But we also have Felix Trammell as our guest tonight. And then Donna Hopkins, our first lady of Sideline Reporting.
Kappa sweetheart.
It's a rare kind of day.
I'm about to say,
yes.
Got a nice title. Yes.
Hey, everybody.
Put it up there. Let everybody know. Let's let everybody know. There we go.
There we go.
I'm feeling all the love today.
We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
1 point loss. We went for 2 and lost in overtime. And Lou, you did have a chance to talk to Tony Dungy on the field after the game. And I think he had something really good to say about that going for 2 also.
What are your thoughts about Dan Quinn going? You okay with it?
I absolutely thought it was the right call. You played hard. You're on a 6-game losing streak. You're playing a team with the best record in the league. You got 1 shot to win it. Go for it. Because if you go for 1, they've got the chance to now win the game, and the clock is going to run down. You're probably not going to get the ball back. So I just thought it was the right call, and I applaud them. And I thought they had a good play call, just didn't get it over the defender's head.
Not everybody agreed with that decision, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people would think that, hey, look,
Keep it going and stop them. But again, Tony Dungy said at the time might have run out. And I mean, the play design was there, but edge rusher, he made a play. He made a play. So I just feel, but I will say that even in a loss, I found some really interesting positives in there. I mean, that team was playing with just pride alone, and they took one of the better teams in the NFL to the brink. I mean, when you 30 first downs against Denver, I don't think that's ever done this season. And that offensive line, I'm telling you, I was very, very encouraged the way they were able to move around that defensive line for the Denver Broncos, the way that they were able to Zach Ertz was be able to get some, plays, and same with Terry and that offensive. I mean, I know that we are still trying to get this offensive line together, but Josh Connerly is coming into his own. I know he's been through a gauntlet of defensive players, and the Denver had a lot, and he had a penalty or here or there, but that offensive line unit is, when it's all together, it's what we thought when the season started, that together, all of them together could be a top 5. And the way Marcus Mariota was able to even move around, that's all because of that offensive line. So if there's anything to take away positive after you get past the stinging of another loss, is that when a team is trying to do some stuff just on pride alone, man, they play with a lot of pride, and I saw some positives there.
Hey, Marvin,
Donna?
I was one of the ones who I said that I would have kicked that extra point, and and went down the field and say, defense, you got to stop them. And I understand why Coach Quinn did that, but me personally, I was saying, please kick that extra point and tie it up, and then make the defense hold them. I know that the defense in overtime did not hold them. I mean, because they went down 5 plays and they scored a touchdown, and they put it back in the Commanders' offensive hands to try to win this game. But I think what Lou said is great also, is because it is so many great things to take away from that game, even though they lost that. And he talked a little bit about Josh Connerly. And I talked to Larry Tunsil early during the season. He said, this guy's a dog. He's going to be a good player on down the line. He's going up against the best players every week. And now you're starting to see him come into his own later on in the season. So I like how that offensive line, with all of those guys now back gelling, and you can see that the running game had over 100 and some yards. Kudos there, because they actually ran the ball and they did a mixture. And Terry McLaurin being back was so key for this offense. He's shown why they have missed him over the weeks. game-wise, because with him in the lineup, it makes a difference. It frees up Deebo Samuels a lot. He has some great catches. Deebo has some great catches. And then Burks, the one-handed catch that we're going to be talking about forever, was something special to behold. But even the defense, I've got to give kudos to the defense, because all year long we're saying explosive plays. Look, Will Harris being back in there made all the difference at free safety, because we didn't see any explosive plays. Quan Martin played much better also, and that defense held a Denver team down. So it's so many great things to take away from that game. And Jeremy Reeves, when we were talking in the locker room about going for that extra, kicking the extra point and all, he said, "No, we 20 times 20, 50 times 50. We basically go for that 2-point conversion." So, again, if the Commanders would have played like this in Madrid, they would have won that game.
Hey, look, we're going to go to Felix in a second, but since Donna and Lou were both talking about two really good players coming back, we have some sound bites from Will Harris, and we have sound bites from Terry McLaurin about coming back and being in that lineup.
Yeah, I'm a football player, and the football field, that's where I'm supposed to be. And so it's a blessing to get back out there with them. We had a lot of opportunities to come out on top in this game, and that stings. That sucks. But I appreciate the resolve and the commitment to each other that we have in this brotherhood, in this locker room.
I've just been blessed to be able to live my dream and play at a very high level for a while. And, I have confidence no matter how much time I may miss that I'll come out and try to give us a chance to win the game. But I just give the glory to God, because it was definitely a long journey and, some ups and downs. And coming into this game, there was a rep count, but in my mind I knew the game was close. I'm going to spill it for my teammates, you know what I mean?
All right. That was two of our best players who've been out injured, and they're back, and they made a big difference. Let's go to Felix Trammell. Talk about those guys and any other positives that you saw in that game.
I want to start with saying I was in the go for two camp. You go for two at that point. You've battled that game. You go for two, you go for the win, because that's how they played last year. And I think that's Dan Quinn's culture, to do those things. And they were successful a lot of times last year. So you keep that positivity, you go for it. You live, the chips fall where they may. And I think talking to the guys in the locker room, we sense that. But I've always mentioned that Will Harris was the most important person on the defense. Last year, I always said it was Jeremy Chin. That role in this defense is vital. And when you did not have Will Harris back there, that's when we started to see those communication issues where people were confused lining up. They didn't know where to go. There would be bad matchups, and all that all became because Will Harris wasn't there. And you see the fluidity now that Will Harris is there. You didn't really have the coverage breakdowns that we've been seeing the last month and a half when he wasn't present. So I think he's very underrated in what he does, but then you see his value when he's out there. And they were able to control the Broncos' passing game for the most part. Now, Bo Nix was able to scramble and make some plays, but you live with that. But Terry, and there's been a lot of consternation in the fan base about, is he a number one? But you see his value in the offense. And when he's there, the Broncos had to pay attention to 17. So now that they're paying attention to 17, now these other people are not getting the attention they needed. So Deebo gets some chances. And now Zach Ertz is one-on-one, and he goes over 100 yards. So the value of Terry McLaurin we saw, and then he made those tough contested catches in those big moments. So I think we got a chance to see what Washington was supposed to be in 2025 against the Broncos. And it may not have been successful, but you saw that was the team that was supposed to be there in 2025. And I think that should be encouraging to everyone that that's the spine, that's the skeleton of what will be here in 2026. Now, a lot of players are going to be different, but you see the nucleus. You mentioned the offensive line. They're going to be good for a long, long time. So you grow that. You grow that with 5. You have Terry back. You have those pieces. Now you have some draft picks and a lot of money to build around that. But I think that's the most encouraging sign, even though a loss is always a loss. but to be positive like that on prime time is a very good sign for the Commanders.
Can I say one more? Can I say one more thing? I got to give it up for Cliff Kingsbury getting the ball out of Marcus Mariota's hands. I mean, that was key. I really liked the way he called that game. But again, going back to my original point with the offensive line, when you have your quarterback dropping back 50 times, and there was only 10 pressures and 2 sacks, that's very encouraging. And this offensive line is something like Felix said and Donna said as well, you can really, really start building around, because when they are all there, pretty good.
Well, can we just throw this in? Coach Quinn being the defensive play caller. What a difference in 2 weeks that defense has looked. And as he said, now that he's got his feet really under it in this second time with him calling it, and you could see the difference. The first time in Madrid, he's just getting his feet wet a little bit. They're still trying to navigate through that. Game number 2 with him being the play caller. Oh yeah. And he was actually on Monday. Come next year, just looking a little ahead of the game, do you see yourself being the defensive play caller moving on? And he said that they're still looking at that. So it's a possibility that Coach Quinn could be the defensive play caller. Coaches do that on the offense side of the ball and the defense, but you can see the difference there with him calling that defense.
What do you guys see next week with the Vikings on the road? That's a pretty winnable game. The Vikings are just not playing well at all on offense. What do you guys see that they'll have to do up there in Minnesota, starting with Felix?
Yeah, I think you keep the similar game plan. I don't know who's going to be a quarterback. Maybe JJ's back, but I think the Vikings put their eggs in the wrong basket with him, and I think they're trying to figure out what to do, because they have one of the premier wide receivers in Justin Jefferson, and they have Addison, who's a great receiver, but they can't get them the ball. And I think that's going to be a struggle for them. So I think Washington needs to, I think, load the pressure up. Make them have to make those off-schedule throws. They're not as mobile as some of the quarterbacks we've seen, as Bo Nix. So that would be my plan. And then on the defensive side, very similar, because the Vikings defense is pretty good. That is their bread and butter. But the same way you attacked Denver, you kind of negated their pass rush, and you dictated to the Broncos defense of how you want to play that game. That's what Washington's to do. So even if Mariota's back there next week, if Jaden happens to play, the game plan on offense should be similar. But defensively, I think I would go after whoever's taking snaps back there and try to take the crowd out the game, because I think a lot of consternations happened in Minnesota. That's not what they expected to happen. And it's kind of listless up there. So I think this is the time for Washington to put those couple weeks together and get over the hump, because I think that'll mean a lot for the team as a whole, the franchise as a whole, to say, okay, we won this game, we're competitive, we know what we're doing, and we're building in the right direction.
Lou?
Run the ball.
I mean, Chris Rodriguez is the guy. I mean, they should have figured this thing out a long time ago, but Chris Rodriguez can run the football. They had 143 yards rushing against the Denver Broncos. That's unheard of too. I mean, they gashed that defense running the football. And I know Terry being back and keeping that running game probably honest is probably what happened. But run the football, Cliff. Keep running the football. It can work. And I just feel that this is the game of football has not changed, especially in the late winter months, whether you're inside or outside. You got to be able to run the football. And they were able to run the football against the Denver Broncos. Why stop running the football?
Hey, Lou, you spot on right there, because I was thinking the same thing. I said, you got to be able to run the ball. But what a difference a year makes for both of these teams. Minnesota was a strong team last year. You know, Washington was a team that went to almost the Super Bowl. And when you look at these two teams this year, it hasn't worked out that. But the game that Washington just played against a team like Denver is going to help them go up to Minnesota. If they do the same thing that they did, like Lou said, run the ball, establish the running game, mix it up a little bit. Only thing that I want to see differently for this Commanders team is on first down on offense. They seem to stumble on first down with their play calling a little bit. I like them to be able to get 5 or 6 yards on first down and not have to sweat it out on second and third. But what I saw also that's going to be important this week, guys, is that the Commanders against the Denver Broncos, they did a good job in the red zone. They had gotten stuck. John Bates talked to me after the game and was talking about all season long that, inside the 40, they seemed like they were stalled and couldn't move the ball forward. But we saw them being able to multiple times against Denver, being able to move the ball in the red zone and score too. And defense, I'm like Felix, if you put pressure on a quarterback that's got question marks, and that's something that Coach Quinn talked about, the pass rush being a lot better because the coverage was great, because those two wide receivers, we don't want them to make any noise. So that pass rush up front for the Commanders is going to be key to in rattling the quarterback.
J.J. McCarthy will be back. He cleared concussion protocol, so he'll be playing quarterback for the Vikings, and we'll see how that defense stands up against him. But he has been struggling most of the season, and you guys are so right. Pass rush, that's what we need. Let's talk about some college football. In college football, Maryland finished 4-8. After winning the first 4 games, they lose 8 in a row. But it looks like Mike Locksley will be back. They're saying he'll be back, and he'll have more money, more NIL money. So let's see what he can put together for next year, because he does have a lot of freshmen, a lot of young players. So,
hey, Marvin, but for 2 years in a row, they finished 4-8. You got to be better than that. I mean, to start off strong and then you fall apart and not win any more games the year before, the same thing. And all the money in the world won't make a difference if you don't, do something to turn this ship around with your recruits and then some of the players that are there. I mean, is it coaching
in
too?
HBCU football, South Carolina State defeated Delaware State to take the MEAC crown, and Lou was there. And he talked to Delaware State running back coach Clinton Portis. And it was pretty interesting what Clinton Portis had to say. And I know you had a lot of fun up there, Lou.
Yeah, it was really, really a great experience. I mean, South Carolina was the defending champion, and what Clinton Portis and DeSean Jackson and Nima Washington, what they've been able to do, taking a team that had one win the year before and turned it into 8 wins and almost made it to the Celebration Bowl, and the lives that they were able to impact. I mean, I love this trend of these NFL guys taking these college jobs and making something out of it. I mean, DeSean was one of the first to start it, but now they're all trying to jump in. And I mean, the culture at Delaware State is just on fire now. We'll see what he can do next year, because he might lose some guys. But I just feel that is, a way that you can see how their impact is being felt. So I did get a chance to talk to Clinton after the game. I mean, I've interviewed him a lot. We've all interviewed him a lot when he was in a Redskin uniform. But to hear him now as a college offensive running backs coach was just fun to experience. So let's take a listen to that.
I think our entire season was about teaching, making my back self-efficient to where they could teach and learn from on them own, just hearing it as my voice. And, I think that would carry so much further in life, Again, losing, of course, the lesson that you learn is more painful, but is more advantageous, because you never want to be in this situation again. So, we'll be all right, man. We'll be fine. I think just as a team, we grew so much. As a family, we grew so much. As a staff, we grew so much. And it was awesome to even have this opportunity to coach these guys, for them to lay it on the line, give everything that they had. I mean, you saw it in the game. You know, to come out, you 14-3.
Yeah.
Nobody had their head down. The resiliency to keep fighting back in the game. Just gave up a big play. You know, you can't give up that many plays, opportunities to a winning team. You know, that's a championship team, and you can't let it go down that way.
Yeah.
To no surprise, Clinton Portis had a running backs, a running unit at the top of the entire country. The football championship subdivision. He had the Delaware State Hornets were number one, right? And led by Marquise Gillis, who, I mean, this guy was kicked off the team. He was suspended. The biggest hugs and the biggest emotional thing that I saw the entire year is the way that Clinton Portis and DeSean Jackson hugged that young man, knowing what he went through and how he finished his football career. I mean, those are lessons for life there. But Clinton, he looks like he has found, and a lot of these guys, they look like they found their second calling being teachers. And what DeSean Jackson did, turning that football program around and bringing Clinton with him, that's one of the stories of the college football season for me.
I like the fact that he had on that redskin hoodie.
Felix, about that.
Yeah.
You like the redskin? You like the redskin?
I like the
Redskins hoodie.
I like the Redskins hoodie on.
I mean, that's him. But I think the beauty of it, first, shout out to South Carolina State, because I think they're the most complete team in HBCU football.
Oh, yeah.
We couldn't stop them. My Bethune-Cookman Wildcats, we couldn't stop them. But they have that program rolling. But what DeSean did at Delaware State, which is not one of the more preeminent HBCUs, is when it comes to college football anywhere, that's amazing. And I think Lou mentioned it with Clinton, how they're supportive. Like they're imparting lessons that they wish they had learned when they were in college at some of these bigger quote unquote schools. And you can see that almost big brother parental guidance from that. So that's story with Gillis, that running back. That's what he needed to hear from those type guys. And that's what you see them imparting. Like Vic was doing the same thing in Norfolk State. They didn't have this much success on the field, but you can see those lessons being learned. I think those guys coming back to HBCU football, it's all around HBCU football. I can even go to my alma mater, Bethune-Cookman, Nick Collins, who played safety in the league for the Green Bay Packers. He's on the coaching staff now. You can see those guys just gravitating to him because what do you know? And then he's imparting lessons that he learned along the way and on different ways of doing it. So I think that's a very beautiful thing that DeSean has. And I think Delaware State has an advantage because they're real close to Philly. They're pretty close to New York. They can get those Jersey kids. That they have a good little recruiting area that DeSean can reach in and get, because DeSean played in Philly. DeSean played in Washington. He can say, hey, you know who I am. There's about four or five states. He can walk in the door and the kid's going to instantly know, oh, that's DeSean Jackson. I remember the Philly massacre and the blah, 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 blah. And he's going to attract those kids. And I think that's very good for HBCU football as a whole. And back to Loxley, I don't know, like 4-8 is going to be really hard. And I think his impediment is the person he goes against recruiting a lot, James Franklin, is now at Virginia Tech. And he recruits this area very well. Virginia Tech is well funded. He gets these kids from this area. So Loxley is going to have to do a lot of hands-on working. He needs to recruit hard in DC and recruit hard in PG County and get some of those kids up there to Maryland so they can revitalize themselves, because the Big Ten is not going to get any easier when it comes to football. It's just not. It's just going to keep getting harder.
All right. South Carolina State's going to have a tough game down that Celebration Bowl. But I think, like you said, I think South Carolina State's the top HBCU football program right now.
He
have a great coach.
He went from coach. They just mentioned that he went from Benedict's, and he you can tell the culture that he brought from Benedict is now at South Carolina. And DeSean Jackson mentioned that he sees that, when you start building a culture in a couple of years, if you start stacking stuff on top of each other, like Felix said, you can get put some winning seasons together at Delaware State. That's where he said he wanted his players to remember seeing South Carolina State celebrating on their field right, as motivation for next year.
Absolutely. But
Right.
Jackson State probably have something to say.
One thing we got to look at next year is Southern University just hired Marshall Faulk
Marshall Faulk,
as their new head coach.
Everybody
He is from New Orleans, and he has just been hired by Southern as their new coach. They've been having some problems over the last couple of years, but I'm telling you that will turn around because he's a hometown guy anyway. So
it means the world to me to be here. I could not have it be any other way and be any other place than here doing what we're about to do, because I don't know if you guys, these colors, and it might be a different rendition, these colors, they've been good to me. I feel comfortable with these colors wearing them. I feel like something great is upon us.
We're going to see a lot of this happening, and that's a good thing for HBCU football. So thanks, everybody, for joining me on Sideline Report. You guys were awesome, as always. And Washington Commanders, big game coming up in Minnesota against the Vikings. That should be a victory, right? Right, Donna?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you next week on Sideline Report. Take care, everybody.